Yeah, I'm back with a very important video for you guys. Now, everybody who's looking at this video, who's going through this video session, is preparing for UPSC Civil Services examination. They want to be a bureaucrat. But when we are thinking of becoming a bureaucrat, the basic premise of that goal is to serve the nation, to serve the people, to be a part of a system. But do you know how bureaucrats take their decisions? How do they decide whether to go for X or whether to go for Y when they have certain level of discretion? Now I will be sharing the insights of all the nuances that goes inside a decision of a bureaucrat. But before that, I want to share this information with you guys where on 7th of May, guys, listen very carefully, on 7th of May and on 14th of May. 7th May, on 14th May, and then on 21st of May. We are going to have marathon sessions. Now, these marathon sessions will be long hours sessions where we will be providing you really important information. On 7th of May, for example, you will have most important topics for all the subjects. For example, you will have geography, I will be covering polity for you guys, then economy, environment, history. Every single aspect of the topics will be covered which are relevant for prelims 2023. Beyond that, on 14th we will have MCQ marathon on the same topics that we had covered on 7th of May. Make sure that you mark your calendars. These are the Sundays before your exam, so let's not waste your time. Let's not waste any single moment because these are the crucial times. Make sure to attend these sessions, be a part of this initiative that Sri Ram Zayas is bringing to you guys. Now, this is the amazing team of faculties, and I am bringing to you this entire information with the help of Sri Ram Zayas on an academy. Just to give you a brief introduction about myself, my name, my qualifications, years of experience, and the kind of subjects that I've handled. On that premise, I'm also going to share one more important piece of information, and that is that we are offering for you guys a foundation course. Now, that foundation course of GS for 2024, if you're planning to appear in the exam for the next year, for that purpose, you have our support, and we guys from Sri Ram Dayas on an academy will be delivering really important pieces of information. We will be covering these comprehensive courses. Be a part of the entire initiative. Make sure to follow Sri Ram Zayas and the entire team of faculties on an academy. Further, if you want to avail any discount, then this is the referral code that you should go for, and that is SRIRAMS, Sri Rams. Now, if you follow this referral code, you will get a flat and instant 25% discount on all UPSC CSE subscriptions. In fact, we are offering, these are the few results that I wanted to share with you guys. In fact, we have launched important optional courses in English language. So the course will be delivered in English and the lectures will be delivered in English. Along with that, you will have a comprehensive set of notes that will be available to you guys in English only. Now, this is the amazing team of faculties which will be providing you with important topics of optionals. Me, for example, I am going to be covering a comprehensive course on public administration. All right, guys. Now, let's begin with our session. Rationality, a bureaucrat's old friend. Now, what is rationality and why do I cover this topic right now? This topic is relevant for public administration. All those individuals who are going to pursue public administration optional, this is relevant for them. But wait, not just for those individuals, because public administration is a fairly overlapping subject. It works well for GS2 individuals, those preparing for GS3, or those preparing for GS4 particularly. GS2 में ज्यादा, GS4 में ज्यादा ये यूज होता है, GS3 में लिमिटेड जगहों पर ये यूज हो सकता है. नाउ, एज फार एज रैशनैलिटी इज कंसर्न्ड, इसके नुआंसेस को समझेंगे, किस तरीके से रैशनैलिटी ब्यूरोक्रेसी में हेल्प करता है डिसीजन मेकिंग के अंदर. क्या रैशनैलिटी ही the only way out है to take any decision, to decide on any matter, or what are the issues and challenges. We will cover all of that in today's lecture. Now, this lecture is specially designed to cover the topic that comes in the मेंस एग्जामिनेशन. मेंस में जिस तरीके से क्वेश्चंस आते हैं उसी तरीके से इसको डिजाइन किया गया है. अ ब्यूरोक्रेट्स ओल्ड फ्रेंड. नाउ इट इज सेड that there is a quote from Gautam Buddha, and it is said that there are three things that cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Now, to find that truth, or to reach to the stage of finding that truth, what you need is certain discoveries. So, the discovery of truth, for example, we have to ask questions, we have to seek information, we have to look for solutions, and based on that, we divide ourselves, or we basically create a zone around ourselves, and based on that we start to ascertain various dimensions, various aspects of reality. तो हमें reality, हमारे आसपास की दुनिया, उसका सच अपने perception के basis पर पता चलता है, but the basic premise or the process is by asking questions or looking for solutions. Now, this phenomena of rationality is that one thing which stimulates awareness and prompts questioning. In the world of a rationalist, everything and anything can be looked out for, everything and any question can be answered through the application of logic. Where do you apply that logic? For evaluation of facts and concepts. So, rationality is based on seeking answers to certain questions, asking questions, seeking information. All of that becomes a part of rationality. So, the result of a critical mind requires the ability to think critically. So, when you think critically, when you weigh the pros and cons, when you decide on various things based on facts or factual information, that is where the agenda of rationality comes into play. The capacity to assess a claim, to seek proper information and facts with respect to a viewpoint or any idea critically, and to decide whether it is true or false, that knowledge or that level of wisdom is based on rationality. रैशनैलिटी बुद्धि और विवेक का एक ऐसा आयाम है, दैट इज इट इज दैट डायमेंशन ऑफ योर विजडम वेयर यू ascertain things based purely on factual information available. वी विल डिस्कस कि हमारी विजडम जो है वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ लॉजिक या फैक्ट्स के ऊपर बेस्ड नहीं होती है. वी विल डिस्कस दैट बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस सेशन. मेक श्योर टू वॉच इट थ्रू. और पसंद आ रहा हो तो लाइक भी कर देना, शेयर करना दूसरों के साथ. इट प्रमोट्स साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट. हमारे यहाँ फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज के अंदर भी साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट या साइंटिफिक टेम्पर को प्रमोट करने की बात की गई है. साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट क्या होता है? नाउ, साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट टॉक्स अबाउट आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस, the answers to which should be based on information, where you can apply certain formulas. If you can create a formula, for example, if I decide कि मुझे एक पॉलिसी को X तरीके से प्रोसेस से इंप्लीमेंट करना है, एंड एनी पॉलिसी, अगर आप X पॉलिसी को चेंज भी कर देते हैं, इट इज Y पॉलिसी एंड द प्रोसेस रिमेन्स द सेम, then that would be a scientific process. Given that आपने एक set standard formula create कर दिया, you follow that formula, and based on that formula you will be able to deliver or implement those policies. Now, the very fundamental essence of humanity is when the light of rationality illuminates the human brain, the intellectualism takes birth. So, what happens is, when you keep on doing this for a very long time, when you are rational for a very long time, your brain develops a certain level of wisdom where you can cover things, or where you can be a part of certain processes and deliver without even going into the matters in detail. वो लेवल ऑफ इंटेलेक्चुअलिज्म तब आता है जब आप एज ओल्ड प्रैक्टिस को फॉलो करते हैं ऑफ रैशनैलिटी. इफ यू हैव बीन रैशनल, देन यू आर नॉट बायस्ड. You are not driven by opinions, you are driven by information. Imagine a bureaucrat not influenced by opinions, not influenced by group thinking, not influenced by, say, for example, conformational biases or, say, heuristic approaches. If that bureaucrat, if you, when you sit on that chair and you decide on certain matters based purely on information, how effective would it be? And public administration के अंदर effectiveness, sorry, yes, effectiveness plays a very important role. Let me soothen the color of the pen. Just one second. This works? Yes, this works wonderfully. पहले नहीं बताया आपने. Now, rise of rationalism is coming from the period, the age of enlightenment. It is coming from Europe, and जहां पर रेनेसां, the rebirth हुआ, वहां से कहा जाता है कि rationality का जन्म होता है. Now, this rationality might not be the one that public administration students read about, but this is about critical thinking and promoting critical thinking at social level or at societal level, where rationalism was promoted and was prompted because it was reactionary against the belief systems or the faith systems that the church was propagating. Now, people wanted to ask questions. Their answers that might have been, difficult to answer those questions. Solutions might have been difficult, but still everybody started to shift towards asking questions, and that asking questions led to an increased number of discoveries and inventions. So that led to scientific temper. That is what scientific temper is all about. Now, a rationalist focuses on certain basic themes, and those themes in the realm of philosophy are for the following reasons. Number one, the analytical nature of inquiry. Because you are analyzing, it's not that you have any bias towards anything or any solution. It's not that you like one solution and you don't like the other one. फिलोसफी के अंदर रैशनलिज्म को और रैशनलिस्ट्स को बहुत पसंद किया जाता है, फॉर द सेम रीजन, बिकॉज दे आर नॉट असाइन दे हैव नॉट असाइंड देमसेल्व्स एनी सॉल्यूशन. दे आर बेसिंग their nature of inquiry to be analytical. Further, the awareness of different domains of knowledge, because a rationalist focuses on information. For that purpose, you need to have knowledge, and the emphasis should be on obtaining more and more knowledge so that your rationality is far more efficient. तभी तो आप better decision ले पाएंगे. What if you are planted into a state, the society or the socio-economic or socio-political conditions of that state you are not aware of? Unawareness is the worst enemy that a bureaucrat could have. एनी आईएएस ऑफिसर, आईपीएस ऑफिसर, अगर वो अनअवेयर हैं, अनभिज्ञ हैं, तो उनके लिए इससे खराब बात नहीं हो सकती है. एंड दैट इज व्हाई अ ब्यूरोक्रेट ऑलवेज सीक्स टू एनहांस देयर नॉलेज, द विजडम इन वेरियस सब्जेक्ट्स, इन वेरियस फील्ड्स. Now, since the age of enlightenment, rationalism has been commonly associated with many individuals like Rene Descartes, for example, Spinoza, for example. We will be talking about all these thinkers, and we would realize कि इनके thought process से कैसे rationality समझ में आती है, क्यों है ऐसा कि एक bureaucrat को rational होना जरूरी, and किस हद तक rationality possible है, because it is very difficult to acquire 100% knowledge. We will talk about it. Now, Rene Descartes believed that reason and intuition were the most reliable sources of knowledge. Now, reason is for rationality, intuition is for wisdom. तो रीजन जो है वो रैशनैलिटी की डोमेन में आता है, इंट्यूशन नहीं. क्योंकि human knowledge could be deduced through logical reasoning, and this knowledge was more certain that something which is based on sensory experiences. When he was comparing both तो ही सेड कि आपको रैशनैलिटी की तरफ ज्यादा जाना है, रीजनिंग की तरफ ज्यादा जाना है, rather than going towards the sensory experiences. That is what he said. And if you were to compare it with John Locke, the one who's prominent of the two, Hobbes and Locke wali theory, Leviathan state, if you remember that theory, we have discussed that in our previous sessions. Now, an empiricist is the one who basically believes that all knowledge comes from experience. I don't know if you follow that TV series from from America by the name of Suits. There is one individual called Mike. He never graduated from Harvard, and yet he was sitting among the top graduated individuals in the field of law. The only reason was that he was an empiricist and he acquired all of that knowledge through experience. That experience stands against or opposed to the knowledge that you acquire, that you get from graduating in that field. And that knowledge is based on logical reasoning, because your mind is made to, it is fed with a certain level of information. That information is given to you when you graduate, and that degree that you have, that certificate that you have, is a certificate that you have acquired that information. And it is a rational process. It is not an empirical process. An empirical process would be, you make anyone stand inside the courtrooms, for example, and they realize how the processes in law happen. And when they learn from that, then they start practicing. That is not how things happen in the real world. And that is why rational is real. In fact, this is one of a very interesting topics for essays. Rational is real, real is rational. If you want, you can practice writing an essay on that as well. B.F. Skinner, a behaviorist, he rejected both rationalism and empiricism. You know why? He said that the mind should be studied through observable behaviors, the external behaviors, or what are the patterns that influence that external behavior, rather than subjective experiences or reasons. These are things that would in the future become redundant, because the power or the influence of human mind is going to be stronger. Behavior, he said, could be modified through rewards and punishments. One of the examples that I remember is from the Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon Cooper is trying to influence the behavior of Penny when they are sitting on the couch. Now, if this rationality is so important, how does it become a tool in the hands of a bureaucrat? How does it become a friend of a bureaucrat? Basically, it is this rationality that ensures that all the decisions that are taken, they are objective. One, they are not based on personal biases or any kinds of emotions whatsoever. आई नो आप सब लोग जब तैयारी करते हैं, आप बहुत इमोशनल होकर तैयारी करते हैं, बट रैशनैलिटी asks you to keep all those emotions aside and then discuss or work on the factual information or the information available. आप उस पे काम करें. Systematically weighing the cost benefit analysis, यहां पर CBA लिखा है, it is cost benefit analysis. Further, what you'll have to do is try to understand that in a bureaucratic setup, whatever decision that you take, it will have a significant consequence for a lot of individuals. It will change or influence or have an impact on the lives of many people. And that is why it is really important to ensure that all the decisions that you make, they are consistent and they are fair. Consistency kahan se aati hai? When you are rational, you decide on things which are based on information available. And because it is information, you can deduce a formula, and that formula can be applied to all the decisions that are taken in the future. And it can be of high relevance. Now, it can help you achieve transparency, and these decisions will be easy to understand because they will have certain reasons. तो आप कभी भी अपना डिसीजन इंप्लीमेंट करेंगे तो अगर आप उसके पीछे का रीजन देंगे, there is a term in law that we call as ratio decidendi. So a reasoned decision, if you are delivering, for example, then you will not have to explain your decisions. आपका प्रोसेस ऑफ इंप्लीमेंटेशन क्विकन हो जाएगा, एफिशिएंट हो जाएगा, एंड एवरीबडी वुड बी एबल टू एक्सेप्ट योर डिसीजंस एज वेल, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट जस्ट दैट you have to implement the word of law, you also have to make sure that that law or that implemented decision has to be taken and absorbed or integrated by the society. Only then that decision will be efficient. And that is where all the stakeholders, be it the government, the one that you're working with, your peers, you yourself, and also those individuals who will be influenced by your decision, every stakeholder and society at large will be able to accept a decision based on reason rather than a hunch. हंच को, गट फीलिंग को क्वेश्चन किया जा सकता है क्योंकि वो आपकी यूनिक है, आपकी सेपरेट है, सेग्रीगेटेड है, इट इज नॉट इंटीग्रेटेड, नॉट एवरीबडी वुड ट्रस्ट और हैव फेथ इन योर गट फीलिंग. ये तो फैमिली में भी नहीं हो पाता है, बहुत मुश्किल होता है, एंड इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू परस्यू द सेम थिंग इन फ्रेंड सर्कल एज वेल. हाउ कैन वी इमेजिन दैट वी विल रन एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन अंडर आवर नेम which everybody will be accepting, provided we take decisions or we make decisions on our hunch or on our gut feeling. What if we have an unhealthy gut, right? Chalo, jokes apart, we can, what happens is when there are groups of, say, bureaucrats sitting together, what happens is sometimes it becomes a group think concept. What is a group think concept? It becomes a common process or common decision making hona shuru ho jata hai, where individuals who are a part of the group, they start becoming a very coalesced form of the group, where everybody who's sitting in the group says the same thing just to confirm that we are a part of the group. तो मैं आपसे पूछूंगा, आपने चाय पीनी है या कॉफी? इफ देर आर 10 individuals and if 2 to 3 individuals start saying coffee, majority of the individuals would seek coffee, and that is confirmation bias. Now this confirmation bias is to seek uniformity in the group, and it disallows reasoning because now you are biased by the things that have already been talked about in the group. And that is where rationality takes a dip. Bureaucrats have to make sure that they consider all the relevant information, all the perspectives with respect to any problem or with respect to any challenge before they make a final decision. And as per Immanuel Kant, according to his philosophy, rationality is a necessary condition, particularly when you are going to make ethical decisions. In ethical decision making, it is a very important process. Why? He says that decisions should be based on universal principles, which is applicable to all individuals. It should be universal rather than based on personal biases or even emotions. He says कि emotions को side पे रख के कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, because when you are not associated with the outcome, you do not become emotional about the process, and when you are not emotional about the process, आप अकाम कर्म करते हैं. That is where ethical processes turn up, when you consider it to be your duty. We will be discussing Immanuel Kant in our ethics lectures, but right now let's just focus on the decision making part. There was one individual who used rationality and created an entire body of theory out of it, and the name is Herbert Simon. इट इज दिस इंडिविजुअल जिसकी वजह से हम ये आज का सेशन देख रहे हैं और देखना चाह रहे हैं. Herbert Simon argued that humans are limited in their capacity to process information and make decisions. So he came up with the concept of bounded rationality. सोचिए, आपकी रैशनैलिटी जो है, it uses a certain set of information. But if I say the information that is available, it is bounded by certain limitations, because you cannot have access to information which is universal or which is open ended. आपकी और हमारी एंड सिस्टम की लिमिटेशंस रह सकती हैं, एंड दैट इज व्हाट बाउंडेड रैशनैलिटी इज ऑल अबाउट. He says that decision makers often rely on heuristics, mental shortcuts, or to simplify, complex decisions, various other processes. If I were to talk about what is heuristics, imagine, say, for example, Socrates. Socrates used to, use this process where he used to ask his students questions. And when the students used to answer those questions, by the processes of these question answers, the students themselves try to develop certain level of understanding and a thought process. That is a heuristic process of teaching. राइट नाउ ब्यूरोक्रेट्स, हमें आजकल क्या है, अपने को स्पून फीडिंग ज्यादा जमता है ना. तो बट अदरवाइज इट यूज टू बी द process back in the day where we used to follow question answers processes, and that really helped a lot many individuals reach pinnacles of success. Now bureaucrats may need to rely on simplified decision making processes, but they will have to manage large volumes of information, and they will be responsible for handling that information. But what if that information is not available? Charles Lindblom, Charles Lindblom, a very important theorist from the field of political science and public administration, public policy की field से associated है. He talked about and he proposed an incremental approach or incrementalism. Incrementalism accepts the fact that you do not have, it is a more realistic and effective approach. Reason being, he understands that you do not have all the information, you do not have everything that needs to be catered to when you're taking or when you're making a decision, and the complex and often conflicting interests at play in a bureaucratic environment, we have less information of that. And because of that reason, he says that जितना पता है उतने के हिसाब से डिसीजन लीजिए, and when anything turns out to be wrong, then make sure that you change that decision and further and further. Like for example, if I were to create a diagram for you, imagine this to be your standpoint, imagine this is where you are supposed to reach, and this is the process that you have to follow. Now you have no clue as to what is it that you are going to find down the path, or how this process is going to turn out, because of lack of information. If there is lack of information, you know what would happen? You might idhar chala, main udhar chala. That would happen. For example, now you realize that you have reached this point which is far away from the process. What do? You change the process. Then you realize you have reached there. Probably you might end up here, then you might end up here, and then you might end up here. So incrementalism is changing or revamping your strategies every single step of the way, so that you are far more realistic. This is a far more realistic process. You can fairly imagine, क्योंकि आपको beforehand you can connect the dots backwards, but you cannot imagine or procreate the dots beforehand. ये assumptions and presumptions की गेम हो जाती है, which is far unrealistic. मैं ऐसा होगा तो वैसा कर दूंगा, मेरे सामने ऐसा होगा तो वैसा हो जाएगा. If in my district there are any riots, I would do this, I would do that. All these are woods, and they have no significance, because in real sense, in real life, you face the situation and decisions are taken as such. तो वहां पर ज्यादा रियलिज्म फॉलो होता है, एंड दैट इज वेयर Charles Lindblom talked about not rationality, not even bounded rationality. He talked about an incremental approach. Now, is rationality the best way? It is said not always rationality is the best way, because rational decisions are based on objective analysis and evidence. But what if the objectivity, which is supposed to be based on certain information, it is not available? What if the evidence is not available? then you have a bounded rationality. The limited availability of information is bounded rationality. Further, it is said that we can also use value orientation or goal orientation to consider decision making. Now, Aristotle, although he believed in the nuances of rationality, he considered rationality to be an essential feature for achieving the good life that he used to talk about. But individuals must also strive to achieve a balance and moderation in decision making. That is what he said, and that rationality could help achieve this goal. But there are other perspectives as well. It is not always कि rationality ही आपको सही decision तक लेकर जाएगी या good decision तक लेकर जाएगी. You might have to align all your decisions with the broader goals of living a good life, because sometimes something that is okay in law might not be okay in ethics. There can be challenges sometimes where you are implementing any policy at your discretion. You might be able to cover a lot of things only if your broader goals for living a good life is assigned or aligned with that good decision that you're basing on rationality. So that is how you take decisions. Daniel Kahneman, he talked about rationality and he said that there are limitations to rationality. He argued that we are most often influenced by our biases and heuristics, because जब हम खुद से सवाल पूछते हैं, हमारी अंतरात्मा, हमारी कॉन्शियस, हमारा इनर सेल्फ हमें जवाब देता है, and based on that we make decisions. We decide whether to go for this or go for that. Samosa khana, kachori khani hai. Our mind tells us. It is not based on the factual information कि किसमें ज्यादा calories हैं, किसकी चटनी ज्यादा स्वाद है. No, it is most of the time based on our likings, which is coming from the heuristics or coming from the biases that we already have, the presumptions being the basis of those biases. Amartya Sen has emphasized, for example, the importance of these values and goals for a good decision, even if it is based on rationality. Values or goals का alignment होना बहुत जरूरी है. Rationality must be contextualized within a broader framework of values and goals. Decisions must take into account the socio-political context in which they are made. That is what Amartya Sen said. That is why I have to compare what bounded rationality is with all that we have learned right now. Bounded rationality is the concept that Herbert Simon gave in 1950s, and he described that there are limits to human rationality. He first had came up with a rational decision making model, but that decision making model failed given that rationality was limited, and that is why very few individuals in the world would do that, and I respect Herbert Simon for doing this. He corrected his mistake and he introduced the bounded rationality model. He said and he believed that human beings have cognitive limitations. Not everybody knows not everything. One. Second thing, not everybody has universal attention and memory. हर किसी को सब कुछ याद नहीं रहता है, हर किसी का ध्यान हर चीज पे नहीं जाता है. Not everybody is Sherlock Holmes, for example. In the real world decisions are often made under conditions of uncertainty and ambiguity, जहां पर आपके पास सिचुएशन की इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल नहीं होती है, एंड दैट इज वेयर इट गेट्स वेरी इम्पॉसिबल टू बी rational. To seek all the information, it becomes difficult. Bounded rationality acknowledges that fact. And even when the information is available, we have cognitive limitations. भाई कईयों की समझ में कमी होती है. It recognizes the role of heuristics and biases in decision making. So it is a closed loop right now. You get an idea how a bureaucrat would decide on certain things, how it is important for a bureaucrat to be rational. Now, studies have shown that people tend to make decisions based on heuristics and shortcuts. फटाफट से यार ये डिसीजन लेना, ये चीज लेनी है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मोबाइल फोन लेना, आईफोन लेना है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, राइट. एक किडनी निकलेगी, दोनों निकलेंगी, वो बात की बात. And rather than fully analyzing all available information, we tend to engage ourselves not in fully rational decision making, but into heuristics, biases, confirmation biases, for example, and various other sensory explanations, or say hunches or gut feelings. Based on that, we make decisions. That is how decisions are made in real life. Now, rationality is not the best way. If not the best, it may be called the second best way, because when there is a lack of hunch or there is lack of wisdom, it is this rationality that helps you decide on a lot of things. That is why rationality has relevance. But still, there are many individuals like William James and, for example, Amartya Sen, and, for example, various other individuals like Charles Lindblom that we have talked about. These individuals have criticized rationality, and they say that it has had its fair share of criticism, for example, and it is out of touch with reality. It is not real. The reality is something else. He further added that rationalism represents the universe as a closed system, because we think that information is limited. If we have this entire set of information, within this set of information, we will be able to take the right or the best decision. Herbert Simon is wrong in that sense, because William James says that the universe is an open system, because we still are exploring the universe, we are still exploring the information available. And if you were to apply this to a bureaucratic setup, imagine yourself working in any district, and you would realize that there can be new pieces of information, that there can be different pieces of information that might come to you, which is relevant but has very limited availability insofar as its relevance is concerned with respect to rationality. But आपके decision के लिए वो important हो जाएगी, because it will sway your decision from X to Y. वो rationality नहीं होगी. It will be based on your premonitions. It will be based on your hunch, your gut feeling. And that is, the gut feeling is that variable that Herbert Simon did not really account for. It is said that the best decisions made are those that have a confluence of rationality and wisdom. So, a bureaucrat who's wise and also uses rationality like a tool, like a weapon, these are the best performing bureaucrats. And with that thought, let's end this session. I have to request each and every one of you individuals to make sure that you attend all those marathon sessions every Sunday. Sunday waste ho jata hai ji. Every Sunday from this Sunday onwards. Every Sunday of May 2023. Make sure that you attend all these marathon sessions on 7th, on 14th, and on 21st. Otherwise, keep calm and stay tuned to Sriram's IS. This is Sanadath Bhardwaj signing off. Take care. Have an awesome day ahead. Bye bye.